Week one is here. Risers and fallers around the league. That and more this week out in space with Sam Singer. Sam, how are you doing today?
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It is a pleasure to be here at the end of a week one. Let's just say week one.
Yeah. And a week one it was. A little bit blasé, kind of how I'm feeling right now, getting over the sickness. Weirdly feeling a little bit worse than I was when did the last podcast with Luker. Not sure if that was just because I was so jazzed to have him back in the league or not, but they're very excited to have escaped week one with the W. It wasn't very much of a competition, honestly, with Hunter. I was expecting a little bit more of a tight race there, especially losing two guys to injuries, even though Kittle got a touchdown. But overall, feeling great about week one, despite the fact that I don't feel like there was a ton of takeaways. How about you? What was your initial takes as week one washes over us all, Sam Singer?
I find it so fascinating how quickly shit gets real. Like, I left the draft and every team looked good to me. And after 1 week of football, I look at the league and every team looks mediocre to me. It's wild.
Yeah. No, I have a very, very similar takeaway as you. I think that I don't know if it's just that I've reached a new plateau of my football knowledge, right? Such that all the players kind of have like a familiarity to me as opposed to like what I was 5, 10 years ago where I couldn't even spell, the fifth or sixth guy off my bench. And so I don't know if there's just like the gap of my expectations has like closed or maybe gotten wider depending on what angle you're looking at it. And then I think just week one, maybe the early weeks in general, as teams are feeling themselves out. And then again, as a relatively new football fan, it also felt like there was quite a bit of divisional games, in the onset. I know at least for us in the
Yeah,
AFC
there were.
West, we had a lot of those games. And so I think that plays into it a lot too, right? That you might not necessarily have guys swinging for the fences, especially the teams that know each other a little bit more. And so I would say my general takeaway with week one was just disappointment. I think you're looking for a little bit higher scores, right? Unfortunately, again, you were the only one that got to have that first high score put up on them, Sam. But again, maybe we can get into that a little bit with some of those details on that think piece later. Taking a step back from just week one, Sam, now that you have some clarity, how do you feel about your draft?
I still feel good. I look at my team and I still see like solid dudes on that team. I'm hoping like week one is a floor week for my big dudes, my big guys. Like, you hope that Chase and Gibbs can combine for more than 22 on average. I do feel pretty solid about my shaky wide receiver core. I think coming out of the draft, I knew that was going to have to develop in order for me to be competitive. And although Terry McLaurin disappeared in battle, I was encouraged by what I saw the usage out of Jacoby. And
Yeah.
Ricky had a great game, and obviously looks like he's going to have a lot of opportunity for the next few weeks at least. I'm not too worried. It was just a weird week. I know I got smacked, but at least helps when I look around and I see just everyone else kind of with mediocre performances. So I don't feel like I'm too far behind.
Yeah. Again, we'll touch on your roster a little bit deeper later on in the show, but I had a similar sentiment. I think obviously it's Scary Terry not showing up. Maybe wasn't the biggest surprise in the world, right? With that holdout, not having as many reps in the preseason, might explain that slow start. But everybody else had, more or less some pretty good volume for you. And then again, just touchdowns are a hell of a drug in football, and if you don't get those, it's hard to put up numbers. And obviously. What was it? Yeshua? Am I saying that correctly, Sam? Or
Yeshua,
Yeshua,
the Dark Angel,
the Dark Angel, casting his jet black shadow across the league. The first heart to have that fear struck deep is a terrifying thing, especially in the fashion that he did it in that epic game that I've heard so much about already. So. Do you have anything else you want to say on that Dark Angel right now, or do you want to touch on that a little bit later, Sam?
How do you feel about your team, Ken? 1 week removed from the action.
I'm still kind of reeling. I think that there's a part of me that's disappointed that I had the Xavier Worthy shoulder just very early on in the season, right?
Oh yeah.
And at least right now, he hasn't been relegated to IR, which I think if I'm being honest, I would prefer the IR clarity just to know that I have something that I can, put in the back burner for 4 or 5 weeks. But just in the nature of it being a shoulder injury and not knowing exactly how he's going to come back for the rest of the year, right? This could be one of those things that just loses upside for the rest of the year. So, that's a little bit of a bummer. But more or less everything else, I'm still very happy with. I think a lot of the guys that I thought were going to have some volume early on got there. I was happy to see Mason as involved as he was. I was excited to see the stat line coming off the Vikings game being a very balanced approach with JJ. That was kind of how I saw things going. Again, with the injury thing, Kittle going out early was rough, right? He was definitely is the leader of my team. And I love his energy, but having him on IR for the next 4 weeks at least gives me the ability to pivot to Kraft. Again, so happy that I decided to randomly go 2 tight ends, in the draft. But at the same time, it's like there's a real big drop off in that top tier of, the Kittle, Bowers, McBride folks until you get to, hoping that the 2 touches Kraft gets, one of them is a touchdown. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy. I think a lot of the guys ended up about where I thought they would be. But yeah, I still have just, I don't know, something about reality, and just not scoring 170 points week 1 just doesn't sit right with me, right? And I think that's a lot more just in, on my side in my head, thinking that, I just had the best draft, this side of the Mississippi that would go down, in the record books. But in reality, just, 100, couldn't even get to 100 points. Yeah, I had injuries, but we'll see, man. The Worthy thing could also just mean Hill comes home that much quicker, and so it'd be nice to get some clarity on that guy. But yeah, I think I'm in a good spot. Losing 2 guys to injury week 1, potentially losing my quarterback. Not bad.
One more week 1 related question for you, because we're in the same boat on this one. How you feeling about the Detroit Lions? Are they shitty, or is Green Bay's defense just that good?
I'm hesitantly on the side of just Green Bay's better. I think that Green Bay and the Chargers were kind of in a similar boat for me. I think that we both had playoff aspirations, and that the idea that, and again, a divisional game, we would have our rivals' numbers isn't surprising. And then having Michael Parsons come over for them, Micah Parsons come over is obviously a game changer for them. And so having their run game gummed up a little bit with that monster, hog and double teams all over the place isn't a big surprise. I think the clarity, again, that I know Dan Campbell's loves 2 things, biting kneecaps and David Montgomery, right? And so it scared me a little bit, right, that Gibbs was going to take that next step, with the OC moving on, and that they were just going to decide to give everything to Gibbs. But having him have that volume as a nice baseline is heartening. And so we'll see. I have no idea who they have next week. Are they playing the Vikings, or my internet's not pulling up fast enough? Okay, here we go. They're playing Chicago. So yeah, Chicago should be another interesting test for that offense.
Yeah, especially considering the Ben Johnson's knowledge with Detroit, so being how to shut down that offense.
Yeah, agreed. So I think we'll have another interesting use case to look at next week. But overall, I'm still feeling pretty good with the Lions in general, and especially with Monty's secured position at the right seat at Dan Campbell's table.
I love it, man. Let's hope.
Yeah. Let's take it back, Sam. The year is 2011. I don't remember exactly when packing came into our lives, but it is a core concept to the way that many of us live our lives. You've somehow managed to make it into the industry of packing in general. Sam, can you connect the dots on how you got from sandblasting in Orange County to being a professional in the industry of filling and packing in the year 2025?
Yeah, honestly, it's just about commitment, Ken. I am what I preach. I was serious back in the day that I wanted to pack it. I wanted to be a packer, and I guess everyone else was kind of just joking, but I put pedal to metal and I've made a career out of it. And yeah, and now I'm proud to say if you need something packed, I'm your man. I'll pack it for you.
I love to hear it, Sam. I think that I might have taken the packing slightly more literally, right? That in a weird inversion, packing, the way I understand it, is to shut down, end things, to give up, right? There's maybe a little bit of suicide watch flavoring on the fringes
Oh yeah,
of packing.
the Shire
And
pack. Yep.
as the Shire, yeah, the deep pack, ultimate pack, Shire pack. Mel and I were reviewing our last little half decade of life, and we're just kind of doing some step backs. And I've packed working more often than not in the last half decade. I think that if you go over the last 6, I think I'm sub 50%. So I think in the spirit of packing, I'm right there with you. And I appreciate you taking a figurative approach in your professional life. Speaking of that professional life, Sam, I know you're in a busy season right now. Can you give us a little bit of insight into what a busy life in the packing industry looks like? And then as a follow-up to that, I know that early on, it took you a little while to get your bearings. So can you contrast your busy packing life now with the early days of getting started?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, these days, a busy day for me looks like wake up at 5:30 a.m., get in the car and drive somewhere completely undesirable, because that's where all the industry is. So somewhere out towards San Bernardino County in the desert, and walk around factories. And I spend my time trying to optimize people's production processes and facility layouts. And I know it's very riveting stuff. I left a very promising career in film to do this because that's how passionate I am about it. I love being in hot factories in the middle of the desert, telling people, where to put electrical drops and pneumatic airlines. So that's kind of a typical day for me right now. It's a lot of meetings and bending over to customers' demands and trying to meet unreasonable timelines, all with a smile on my face, because everyone relies on me to tell them it's going to be okay. That my day-to-day today is way different than it was when I first started the company, like I guess going on almost 10 years ago. Back when I first started, it was like a lot of hustle, knocking on doors, trying to chase up opportunity. When I started, I pretty much was just like a salesman. I worked with manufacturers and I sold their equipment to customers, and I'd get some incoming leads, but most of it was just like going through lists and knocking on doors and literally driving to people's facilities, cold calling them and just saying, hey, like, will you buy something from me? So yeah, it's changed a lot.
So when you're walking through those factories, has there ever been like a moment where like instead of like a packing machine, like they just have somebody's uncle with like little Dixie cups, and you're just like, man, I'm going to make $1 million right there. Can you give us an example of like something that like stands out to you that like might not be as obvious as, somebody's uncle filling up Dixie cups by hand?
Honestly, like, I don't know if you're joking or not, but yeah, that happens a lot.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. Some of our longest customers who we've done the most business with are people that we met when, like, our first meeting, we walk into their production facility and it's literally just like 55 people, like pouring something out of a big pitcher into a small bottle, doing it all by hand. And we come in and we sell them the automation to replace those people, unfortunately, and help them scale. So yeah, we see a lot of that.
Well, I suppose that shouldn't surprise me, but it always does when I hear about that type of real world solutions finding their way into production facilities. I think this is still just the evolution of Ken as I become disillusioned or illusioned towards the ways of the world, right? But it's a beautiful thing hearing from your perspective, right? That there's 55 uncles out there, out there somewhere pouring out of a Brita, right, in a factory that's yet to be automated by Coast Integrated. So I appreciate those little nuggets.
And sometimes it's big brands. Like sometimes it's people that you'd recognize in the store, in the grocery store, and they just have 75 of their cousins in back, like putting stuff in bags with their hands.
That's just the way the world works. Another way that I would love the world to work, Sam, is you back in the entertainment industry. I know that we've talked about your creative side and what a big part that plays in who you are. Thinking about these kind of far off futures, it might not be so far off anymore, right? Our 40s are just around the corner. There's a conversation in my head where we talked about your future, about maybe potentially having like a studio in Colorado at some point in your life. Is that something that you still have in play? Are you still trying to make your motions back into the entertainment industry? Or what does your future in the entertainment industry look like in 2025?
Man, life is funny the way that it unfolds. I remember that conversation. I think we probably had that conversation 4 or 5 years ago. And at the time I was still super involved on the creative side. I was producing like a web series and shooting short films and super into photography and doing stuff on the side. I was editing for brands and I was doing all that sort of in junction with my business, Coast Integrated, that I have now. But time moves on and I follow the opportunity, and I've sort of always just followed the best opportunity in my life. And the business stuff with Coast Integrated really just took off and started bumping out all that extra time I had to do those other things. And then, obviously had a daughter 1.5 years ago, and that's a lot of time that it sucks up. And to be honest, like around the time Scarlett was born, I had pretty much like lost all my creative outlets, and that sucked. That was really tough. But ironically, it's this league, FF Till Death, that has blessed me with a lot of opportunity to have that creative outlet, and so I've been having a lot of fun getting back into some of that stuff.
Yeah, and we love it, Sam. I think it's safe for me to speak on the league's behalf to say that we love having you and your creativity, pumping out the think pieces lately, getting the podcast going with Tom has been real fun to watch. And then just in general, your contributions and all the content video that we put out over the years, right? Your hand very strongly in that. So I want to thank you on behalf of the league for the creative, beautiful person that you are, Sam. Moving on to
thanks, buddy.
Football and boundaries. I have
Moving on.
taken it. Yeah, I've taken it upon myself this year, or at least maybe Mel has nudged my hand strongly to have a better boundary with football. And so the way that we've compromised this year when it comes to my relationship with football is I'm only going to be watching Chargers games. I am not going to have my notifications for like my news app set up, right? And then in lieu of real-time notifications, I'm going to be consuming a morning, daily email subscription from Football Guys, which I highly recommend everybody subscribe to if you haven't already, or you don't have some kind of daily news source, but just to kind of fill in that news outlet / injury update so that I'm staying with it to maintain my competitive advantage. What are your boundaries with football this year, or at least what's your intentions with the boundaries?
Man, that's a great question. And I want to say, first of all, I'm envious of, well, envious is probably the wrong word. I look up to the boundaries that you have, because I think one could hope that maybe I can get there at one point. Football's a little bit of a problem for me, I would say. Up until last year, it wasn't an issue because I could basically just sit around all Thursday and Sunday and Monday and watch football, and it just didn't really matter. But obviously, when you add kids to the equation, things change. Last season was my first go as a football fan and a parent, and I think I definitely was way more aware of the time that it was consuming. Not only just watching the games, but like the attention that you give it throughout the week and waivers and cooking up trade ideas and just looking at your team and tinkering and everything. I think it was a little bit more of a problem for me last year, and that's something I'm cognizant of and trying to improve upon this year. Last year, Scarlett was still really young when the season was going on, 4 months, 5 months old. And there's not much that a 4 or 5 month old can do. Scarlett couldn't even like roll over at that point. So you could kind of just park her and I could sit on the couch. This time around, she wants to do things, and the time is just so precious, and these stages with the kids move so fast. So when Sundays roll around, if we're going to watch football this year, trying to make it more either a social event. This previous weekend, Jess and Thomas came over with Beckham and we watched all the morning games, and then didn't really watch the afternoon games and didn't watch Sunday night football because we went and hung out with Hannah's family. So doing more things like that. And then I'm also trying to pull way back from just getting consumed on the phone, looking at teams and trades and everything like that, because it's endless. Like you could just do it all day long if you wanted to.
Oh, yeah.
And not only is it bad for like your relationship and mental health, but I also think that it's kind of bad for your performance at a certain point. Like there is a point where too much is too much, and you overthink things and all that. So yeah.
I'm right there with you. I think you and I probably had some of the best examples of too much, right, in our trades last year. I think that our trade talks and that final trade that we did together, probably safe to say that we had at least 12 back and forth, like actual offers sent and rejected between the two of us, right? And if you expand like what we actually talked about, whether it's been on the phone or via text, right, that there's probably entire seasons of other managers wrapped up in our one little trade negotiation for that one thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I know specifically 100%. On
that
trade that you offered a trade twice, and I didn't recognize it because the first time you had offered that, and I think I had counter offered an offer you had made previously, it just got lost, right? And so like there was a little bit of that. I'd spun myself around, so it's always like the snake eating the tail, right? And so that's one image that comes to mind for me last season as like, part of the reason for why these boundaries are there for me also. But then it's also like that for me, the addictive nature of like, ooh, like, well, just one more, right? Maybe this next game will be the one that makes me feel good, right? And or makes maybe just watching my guy that one time will get me over the hump, right? And given any circumstance, right, I can find a way to treat something addictively. And so I found myself Thursday nights, Sunday mornings, Sunday afternoons, Sunday evenings, like going into dinner time, just coming up with reasons of why this game needed to be watched, right? And if I took like a half step back and, was being honest with myself that there was very little reason, and that, being present with my daughter and young daughter, because Amelia was on the scene at that point last year. Didn't make a ton of sense to be spending that much energy on that. But week one and the season is young, so 1 week down, 1 week good. But we'll see how stuff continues to churn on from here. If you'd like to, Sam, touch on your think pieces. Let It Be Destiny, the rise of, at least I see it, Jedidian, and then the angel of death last week as you fell to the angel of death in Yeshua. What was your inspo behind these two pieces?
Yeah, I don't know what hit me. Like I said, I've been spending a lot of time in my car, and I've been reading and listening to a fantasy series called The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson, and I've just been loving it. And I don't know, one day I was like, what would be sick is to sort of write a piece about my fantasy team. And my original intention was just to like get the league hyped about week one coming. And I was, pumped about the draft and kind of wanted to put in stone this team that I had drafted. And so I wrote the original one. And when I finished it, I was like, we got to see the battle. We got to see what happens. And I was hoping to write a victory for the Shadow Brigade, but unfortunately I had to, write that crushing defeat at the hands of Yeshua, the Dark Angel. But
so another thing, so I missed initially the Shadow reference, right? That your original think piece, because which horseman were you in the in the think piece series?
War.
You were
I was
War, right?
War.
And
Yeah, and I
you were
think that
like,
went over a lot of people's heads. Thomas texted
yeah,
me after I released the think piece, and he was like, "Man, you're really down a war rabbit hole right now, right?"
yeah,
Which was true. I was at the time way
yeah.
down a war rabbit hole. But yeah, I thought, not to pat myself on my own back, but I thought that my think piece was like probably one of the sickest origin stories for a team name ever. It's just unfortunate that I think no one picked up on that.
No,
So
I think you're right on, and I think that the unfortunate part of it is that there's just enough content of ours going around, right? You know, and then like
yeah,
I'm right in that same seat as you, right? That I'm making all these little preseason content. I don't know if, because again, like I'm dropping Easter eggs inside pieces of content to videos that are hidden, you know, that like there was only like 9 watches after like a month of it being out there, right? And then anyway, so I love it. I didn't catch the shift because I believe you were originally the Shadow, right? And then when did you shift to
yeah.
the Shadow Brigade?
I changed the name, I think yesterday, maybe today,
Okay.
just because
Uh,
it just made sense with the story that we're telling. Um, so Shadow Brigade just felt stronger, and I need that after week 1.
Yeah, again, not a poor showing by any means, but I think a little bit of strength will help you get there. So, taking a turn into the roster, Sam, how are you feeling about your roster? Let's run down real quick, and then maybe I can pop some of my thoughts out there. You got Jaden Daniel leading up the squad. Solid performance this week. You know, he has something like 60 odd yards on the ground. Scary Terry, wary. Not sure if he showed up on Sunday. That was something that I was happy to see. I heard some stories about Fat Devo roaming around the streets, and I was of the opinion that he had leaned down a little bit, and that maybe him having pneumonia last year contributed to him being shitty. And I think that, anyways, I'm stoked. Sorry to take that
Devo looked
spotlight.
good, man. Devo looked really good.
Yeah. Judy and Myers are just extremely solid. I think that if you're looking at Judy as like that, like sexy stud who's going to get it done every week, probably not. But Myers is another one of those guys that I think a lot of people were trying to target late, and is going to have a lot of that good Mike, whatever, whoever the OC is for them in the Raiders. What the fuck is it's the guy from college
You're
who's
talking
like
about
back in
Jacoby Myers?
yeah,
Chip
Jacoby
Kelly?
Myers. Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it
Chip
Chip
Kelly.
Kelly?
There you go. Yeah, Chip Kelly, and Chip known for his offensive prowess in version 4 or whatever the hell he is. Bounced between the leagues. Gibbs, again, we kind of touched a little bit on Detroit and whether or not to be worried about that. I'd love to get your thoughts on that in a moment. Chase Brown picking up right exactly where left off, getting a great workload, but can Cincinnati's defense be too bad to make their offensive something that you want to look at? Slick Rick looking like a stud. As long as Purdy can stay healthy, potentially going to have another monster week this week. And then your depth piece, I've got Pitts, Dylan, and Isaac Tesla as your pieces that are probably something we should keep an eye on. So where does your head go first when we look at your roster, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, my Scary's got to show up. He disappeared.
Yeah.
He started last season pretty shaky as well, so very
Yeah.
similar. I think that was sort of the impetus behind that trade that Spring and Evan made. Of
Yep.
course, Terry really turned it on down the stretch. I think he finished wide receiver 5. A lot of that is because he had double-digit touchdowns. So obviously, there's going to be some regression. But look, the way I built my team, I probably need like one more piece. I got to find one more person, whether that's someone developing on my bench, finding someone on waivers. And as long as I just get like solid wide receiver 2 performances out of a couple of my wide receivers, I'll be good if Gibbs and Chase and Jaden do what I drafted them to do. So week 1 was weird, man. Cincinnati, close game against the Browns. They looked horrible. No one on that offense had a game worth being rostered. I feel bad for Casey and his stack.
Yeah.
The Detroit, it's like all this talk about Ben Johnson leaving. Was he really the heart of that team? And I don't know, like Green Bay's defense looks legit, but Detroit looked like Detroit of years past. And so that's a little scary. They lost a lot of pieces on the offensive line. They lost an offensive mastermind. Gibbs is a freaking stud, but I just seem to have a nose for finding these really good running backs who find themselves in bad situations. Obviously, I've had Brees the past couple of years, and before that, I was rocking Josh Jacobs with the Raiders, and Javante with the shitty Broncos. So it's been about 3 straight years that I've been dealing with, stud running backs in bad situations. So let's hope it's not a fourth.
Yeah, I think again, Gibbs has the talent ceiling, right? That we're probably not going to worry about that too much with the passing volume that he has. But yeah, you're probably already asking that question if that elite ceiling is going to be there for Gibbs, outside of having injury upside. But again, injury gods giveth and they taketh away. You had Evan Ingram fall week 1, which I don't think you were too sad about. Maybe as a Broncos fan, having Peyton's Joker not running around anymore. Do you feel like you're going to be relying on Pitts, or can we expect some big fab out of you in this first waiver cycle on tight end?
I had a gander at the old waiver wire, and I just don't. There's not. I don't see any tight ends. I mean, Harold Fannin had a really great game in Cleveland. Looked like the tight end one, but he's not, and Joker's still playing ahead of him. So outside of that, I just don't. I don't see anyone that's worth dropping money on. I wish that Evan, they just put him on IR or say he's out for the next couple of weeks, because I don't think he's going to be playing, so that I could make a move. But right now, there's no one that I want to drop to take a flyer on, Harold Fannin or whoever, whatever tight end, had a reasonable game in week 1.
Yeah, I hear you, and I'll echo similar sentiments in a bit here when we touch on the waiver wire. Reacting to the new information of week 1, I've got the risers from my perspective as Chargers, Jets, Steelers, Packers. Is there anyone you would add to that list, Sam, or take off?
You said Chargers, Jets, Steelers, Packers. Interesting. You've got both the Jets and Steelers on that list. I agree with you. I don't think. No, I'd have to think about it deeper, but I think that's really solid risers. Aaron looked like he's turned back the clock a little bit. People were saying, especially at 40, 41 years old, it's going to take a couple years to come back from that Achilles injury. So yeah, I mean, Steelers got to feel good about the Steel City.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the narratives, the storylines for those four teams were all pretty straightforward. Chargers, we have Irving in 2nd year and the most consistent offense and arguably the best team he's been in, looking like the stud that I think we all knew he could be. He'd shown obviously flashes all over, his career. He's got some of the best numbers of quarterbacks up to this point in his career. The Jets, to your point with Aaron Rodgers, I don't think anybody had a question that he still has that elite arm in him. The Steelers, Justin Fields last year, shitty Mr. Ride Bronco. I'm going to maybe make a couple more starts in, New York Giants land. Wilson running up the squad last year. Probably not a surprise there. And then Packers, again, I had them similar in that Chargers kind of playoff teams looking to make a move. And with that Michael Parsons move, looking like they're going to be contenders early. Fallers, I've got Chiefs, the Finns, even though they started low, I'm moving them down. The Bengals and the Texans. Do you have any other fallers on top of your mind? Do you agree with my list, or are you taking anybody off there?
I don't. I'm sure I do if I could think about it. Detroit, I'm not ready to say they're falling, but they looked really bad against division rival. They just did not look ready to play. Who did you say? You said Finns?
Bengals, Texans, and Chiefs.
And Chiefs, yeah. Chiefs. I said this in the group text, but I'm just really surprised that they're doubling down on the strategy from last year. It did get them to the Super Bowl, but it's like, man, just get Mahomes someone he can throw the ball to. And I don't know, maybe it was going to be Xavier. I just don't think Xavier's got that much of the dog in him. And maybe they'll trade for your boy Tyreek. But it's like, man, Mahomes is supposed to be this quarterback of the generation. He's out there throwing the ball to 87-year-old Travis Kelce and a whole bunch of practice squad dudes. It's just like crazy.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. And I don't know. I'm not going to take it personally, right? That I had Rashid Rice go down to Friendly Fire last year, and then Xavier going down to Friendly Fire this year, right? I think if Hill gets traded to the Kansas City Chiefs, I probably should trade him before he gets taken up by Friendly Fire. And then even if Hill does get traded back to Kansas City, am I excited about that, right? As a Tyreek Hill owner, because it's like he's not one of those Devontae Adams types, right? Who's got the just elite fundamentals and has a game that's going to age really well, right? That he's a speedster, right? And it looked like Kansas City was willing to take some of those shots with like Tyquan Thornton, and I think Xavier did get at least one deep look. But is Hill really going to be able to provide that downfield threat if he gets on the squad? I don't think so, right?
I think as a Tyreek Hill owner, you should be excited if he ends up back in KC because Mahomes is a way better quarterback than Tua, and Andy Reid's going to scheme it up way better than McDaniel. So I would be pumped, but I also do think it would be a good sell high situation because it does look like Tyreek is experiencing the early onset CTE. So, we saw Antonio Brown put up some good games there in Tampa Bay towards the end of his career when he was really afflicted with CTE, but then he also retired in the middle of the game and fucked everyone over. So,
So I some great points you brought. I was gonna my next thought was gonna be the AD crash out. Early CTE seems like a valid storyline that we should be keeping an eye on. And as much as I could be excited, that it could just be more of a sell high point. And then just to touch, on the Bengals and the Texans, it's at least on the Bengals front, it looks like their defense could be so bad that it could prevent their offense from doing anything. I was listening to a podcast that said they had 3 possessions in the first half. If you don't count the last little possession they had at the end of the half, and I don't date. Nobody doubts the strength of Burrow or the wide receiver core they have going, but if you're going to get 3 shots at the ball, right, like that might not be enough to get it done. So if you're a T. Higgins owner, or if you're the Jamar Chase owner, are you worried about that right now, or are you still going to hold out hope for another few weeks?
I would still hold out hope. In my recent memory, Jamar Bengals tend to start slow. Their defense has always been bad. And if anything, that's going to put them in more throwing situations. Jamar Chase, Joe Burrow, T. Higgins are some of the best dudes at what they do. So I would not quite be at that level yet. I mean, they're going to figure it out. I know their defense is horrible, but they're all NFL players. I don't think it'll be the norm that they're only going to get 3 possessions a half. And it's going to start clicking.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Casey, please don't pick up the phone if Tom comes calling. Give it at least another few weeks. I don't know who owns T, but if I'm the T. Higgins owner, I probably would be fielding some phone calls at this point. That's where I stand on it. Jay. All right. So if I'm Jay,
pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm taking some phone calls. At least seeing where the market's at right now.
Not to put you on the spot here, but if you're a T. Higgins owner, what kinds of offers are you listening to? 2-for-1s, trying to get some depth, or are you trying to package T. Higgins with another piece and color up?
Yeah, I think you're always trying to look to make the color up play, right? If Thomas taught us anything, that at the very least, you should be starting from, like a 2-for-1, 3-for-2, right? And so if I'm able to take T. Higgins and move him up 1 or 2 positions, and again, I don't have my wide receiver board up at the moment, right? But where do you have anybody next to him right now off the top of your head, Sam?
What about like some sort of T. Higgins for AJ Brown package?
Oh, I would love that. I think that off of a shitty week 1 AJ Brown, I did see something to say that AJ Brown had an extremely poor win rate against man this last week in Dallas. and that's something that he's usually a categorical leader for. But you can always just have a bad week. And so if I'm Ben and I am really off AJ for whatever reason, which I can't see Ben doing, it would absolutely be entertaining that as Jason trying to move up to what we know as an elite guy for kind of that fringe wide receiver one in T. Higgins right now.
If you're Jason, are you offering T. Higgins and Jaylen Warren for AJ Brown? And if you're Ben, are you taking that trade? Ben, who, by the way, that lacks running back depth.
Yeah, Jaylen Warren. Wow. So that was one of the points that we got a little bit of clarity this week, I feel. We got right after the draft that Warren is going to be Pittsburgh's guy. And we had Caleb Johnson do absolutely nothing in his rookie debut as a Steeler. And so if I'm Ben, I'm probably seriously thinking about that. I don't know. Again, I don't have both teams up looking at me right now, but my gut says I'd be taking a good long hard look at that if I were both squads. I think Ben might be frisky enough to let AJ Brown go, even with a bad spot like that. But yeah, putting me on the spot, I want to say the value is on Jason's side. He'd be giving up a little bit too much in that trade. So an interesting question to ask for sure, though, Sam. I love it.
Trade season.
Yeah. And first of the seasons, we got our first waiver wire running here in a few short hours, Sam. So just in general, your waiver wire approach, are you somebody who's going to try and spend up a little bit earlier like you did in the draft this year, or are you going to play a conservative long game again?
If there was someone on the wire right now that definitely appears like they would make my team better, I would spend up. My problem with the waiver wire right now is I'm just not seeing anyone on the wire like that. Running backs, there's a few dudes, and waivers are going to run before this comes out, so no secrets here. But Kenneth Gainwell looks like he's got some value in Pittsburgh. Maybe you look at someone like Dameon Pierce, hoping that Nick Chubb is going to get injured or whatever. Maybe Woody Marks, but it looks, even though we dropped a roster spot, the waiver wire is looking a little bleak right now.
Yeah.
I think there's more action on the receiver side of things. There were some great games, dudes, that I think were unexpected. Butte, however you pronounce his name, in New England, had a solid game. Cedric Tillman, he proved last year that he can be a stud, and caught a TD this week. I don't think I'll be in on either of those guys, Cedric, because I already have Jerry Jeudy, and I can't have two fucking Browns mediocre receivers on my team. And same with Butte. I mean, he had a great game, and he had some good games to end last season, but I think he fits in with the same archetype of about four guys I already have on my roster. So, I'm just not excited about anyone. How are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this is a weak week. This is a not strong week for the waiver wire. I think for me, I'm looking more at the tight ends landscape. I haven't put any bids in, by the way. I'm relying on the fact that I'm going to be awake as waivers run. And I still might throw some money on Juwan Johnson. We'll see. He looks like he's going to be that safety blanket. I think that if I saw my numbers correctly, he was out there for 97% of snaps and was up there with Olave as the number one target getter. And if not, he was number two, right? And so with that shitty New Orleans offense, he might be the safety blanket that Rattler? In New Orleans? Yeah, it's going to be Spencer would be checking down all day to Juwan Johnson. And so I've got a couple decisions to make on that tight end front, because with Kelce out for the foreseeable near future, do I really want to rely on Tucker Kraft's 2 or 3 targets a game? And is it going to take to the house for a touchdown? Or does Juwan Johnson continue, right? He's a highly touted tight end prospect in his own right. There was some trade talk to him coming over to the Chargers, reuniting with Justin Herbert in the offseason. And so there's a little bit of, post-type sleeper, breakout on a shitty team that he might have a nice floor, right? Another guy that I've been looking at is Harold Fannin Jr. I think Njoku's toast. We might touch on that a little bit in the Field or Bucket pod coming out here. I think that my sources have Njoku as a real good inline guy. Yeah, he might be the starter, but Fannin is the new hotness, and he's had the hype coming all the way through camp. And he showed up week 1, and with a vet like Flacco, who's not going to, tear your face off, but he will put the ball on you. And as a good pass catcher and a good route runner, Harold Fannin Jr. looks like a solid player to me. And then back to touching on Butte, Keishon Butte. I was big on Pop Douglas, Mr. 7-Eleven always open coming into the season. But one thing that I heard recently was beat reporters were talking about Butte and Mr. Hunter Henry as going to be Mr. Drake May's favorite targets throughout the season. So Mr. Hunter Hog Henry having a strong week 1. Again, you're not looking at a ceiling. And then Butte was the only wide receiver not to come off the field. He was in on 2 and 3 wide receiver sets. And so, again, volume's king. And back to just a general philosophy on my end, I think that I'm very much for taking big swings on guys. I don't think we have any of those guys on the wire this week. I think if you kind of tilt your head and look at Quinshon, you could kind of look at Quentin Johnston, but I think that Tom made the right play there, stashing Keenan. I think that was kind of like the obvious play in that in wide receiver room. But I'm happy to see that he had a good game. We'll see if he takes a step forward. Not thinking that we'll be able to consistently support 3 wide receivers on a weekly basis. But the idea of making plays with your fab to make your team better is the short way of how I would be approaching the waiver wire this year. And I think if I can put Juwan Johnson or Harold Fannin Jr. on my bench and have them be a realistic option for me to start on a week-to-week basis, then if I'm spending $5 maybe on Fannin and maybe 10, 15, maybe get a little north of that on Juwan, and just have him as a option to start against Kraft on a week-to-week basis, then I think that I've made my team better. So any other bits on the waiver wire you want to talk about?
I think, the only thing is, like, after 1 week, it's just so tough to know. We don't have any patterns, right? It's so tough to know if dudes perform the way they did because it was situational or because they're for real. And so, at this point, it's kind of gambling. There isn't a Puka. There isn't anyone that just like really, really flashed. And so I'm ready to sit back and see if anything develops heading into next week.
Yeah, I do want to hit the shut them down guys. So here's a list of guys who I think you can shut down at this point. Some of these guys are already on the wire, but Tua later, Bryce later, Sam Darnold, bye-bye. Ollie, Ben, it was a fun moment, but no. Caleb Johnson, bye. Chris Rodriguez, who didn't even get the active start. Like I mentioned earlier, Demario Douglas, probably not. Cooper Kupp, bye. Your old Bateman, sorry. D. Hobsontown, Jordan Addison, B. You might want to think about dropping that guy. Looks like we're going to have
interesting. Let's pause on Jordan Addison. Why is that?
Okay. So, again, I watched one game. It's going to be the Chargers game, but from my sources, you've got a stable of wide receivers in Minnesota, and you've got J.J. McCarthy, who ran almost as much as he passed, and they maintained a run-heavy approach even while they were down. And so you had Aaron Jones and Mason taking the bulk of the work there. And so are you looking at Jordan Addison to come back in a weak pass offense as a wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3? And having him do anything for you? Because I think we're going to obviously see Jay Jetta get the lion's share of targets. And after, the 18 or 17 passes from McCarthy, what's going to be left for anybody else after that?
All right. That's fair. The one thing, I watched the game. Yeah. I did watch the game last night. JJ looked really, really bad in the first half. Okay. And I sent a half joking trade to Hunter today for Justin Jefferson just because, McCarthy looked really bad, but they did persevere, and he kept his composure towards the end of the game there and made some plays. I do think Chicago's got a pretty good defense. So, Addison is is one of those guys that if I've got him stashed on my bench like B and I invested him in the draft, I'm going to wait until he comes back and see where the Vikings are at in 4 weeks before I send him to the wire, because otherwise someone else is, potentially going to reap those benefits.
Yes, Josh Downs, another one of those guys that you might be able to drop. Like I said, Njoku is worth dropping. Ingram, I'm not sure. I'm waiting around to find out. Andrews, let him go. Love on to let him go. And I got a question mark on Dak Prescott. Is Hunter going to be restarting the QB roulette? Do you want to let's roll through Field or Fuck It real quick here, Sam? We're running a little long. So if you want to keep your responses nice and tight, we'll blow through this and get to space time. How'd that sound?
Let's do it. Sounds good.
Dalton Kincaid is finally going to take the step forward this year. Field or Fuck It?
Feel it, because I had him last year and he sucks. So it'll be good this year.
Keon Coleman, separation frustration. Is he going to be the top target in Buffalo?
Feel it.
As the Kyle Pitts owner, will Michael Penix Jr. be finding him all year this year?
Fuck it.
Michael Penix Jr. is the real deal.
Feel it.
And is Casey Washington in that same wide receiver room somebody to watch, or is he about to get Darnell Mooney?
Fuck it.
Emeka Ibuka is the real deal.
Feel it.
Chris Godwin's days are numbered.
Feel it.
Marion Hampton is going to be the bell cow for the Bolts.
Fuck it.
Damn straight. Kenneth Walker, is he worth the investment?
Yes, feel it.
Breece Hall, is he going to be a bell cow?
Feel it. Fucking feel it.
Does Hall have top 3 upside? Feel it or fuck it?
Feel it.
All right. Ashton Genty, is he going to return RB1 value?
Fuck it. The Raiders suck.
Yeah, fuck those guys. Dylan Sampson, can you survive the arrival of Quinshon Judkins?
I feel it.
Harold Fannin Jr. will remain a weekly starter in fantasy.
I feel it.
Calvin Austin III will remain a weekly starter.
Fuck it.
Noah Fant is the real deal in Cincy.
Fuck it.
D-Hop, is he the real deal in this Baltimore offense?
Fuck it.
That was Feel It or Fuck It with Sam. A nice, high and tight Feel It or Fuck It, Sam. I appreciate us getting through those points. Let's
Love that segment.
relax it a little bit and take a step into the effervescent area known as space-time. Health. It has been the early stalwart of the podcast, something that I am not in at the current moment, albeit it is an important part of all of our lives. Fathers, young fathers, bachelors alike. When I say the word health to you, Sam, on this 9th day of September, at least in Taiwan, what does it mean to you?
It's your vitality, especially as a parent, as a father. It's something that I'm focused on a daily basis because I want to spend as much time as possible with my family. And we're getting to that age where the consequences of our actions are a little more pronounced than they used to be, whether that's partaking in vices or just not treating yourself well. So that's what health means to me. I think there's a mental side, a mental component to health that I probably shove under the rug a little too much, but been trying to focus a little bit more on that as well because it's equally as important.
So when you say focus on the mental, can you give us just a couple points on what that looks like for you today?
For me, it is I have a really addictive personality, and I have a lot of ADD, and I tend to like go down the rabbit hole on things and get super sucked into things. Whether that is social media, fantasy football, these like quick hit dopamine kind of things, I can just like really get pulled into. So I have been trying to identify those things in my life and be realistic with myself and avoid them or at least have a healthier relationship with them, put myself in a position where they're not going to control my time, because man, some of that stuff can just steal your time, and that's all you got, baby, is your time. So
Yeah. And for me, when I hear mental health, especially when it comes to that quick dopamine, I'm right there with you with a lot of the addictive natures, right? That it's very easy for me to slip into these hours of being on my phone, scrolling through this or that. And structure has been my best defense against pretty much all of those things. The only success I've really had in my entire life has come in the last few years. And a lot of that has been installing what I'll call spiritual structure in my life. And, and as much as I don't prescribe to a sacred domain, the spiritual aspects to me means getting out of my own way, acknowledging in one form or another that I am not the master of my own world, that I am just a participant in what's going on around me, and that I can let go and succumb to the structure in life and let that drive my day rather than what I think is going on. And so when I say structure, Sam, the next thing I think of is when you add that new life into your family, structure looks a lot different when it's just you waking up to your alarm clock, going to the gym, getting breakfast in, going on with your day. How does your life in structure look different with your little girl?
oh man, it's completely different. It's completely different. It's a big transition going from living for yourself to living for someone else. The first 2 years of your kid's life is just so wild because you go through so many stages so fast. And routine is something that Hannah and I have tried to keep present in our lives as much as possible. It's a challenge at times because, I mean, just by nature of our jobs and our lifestyle to begin with, and then when you add a kid in it, and every day is different with a kid. So trying to create space for ourselves throughout the day, time, carve out time to do the things that keep us healthy, whether that's working out, cooking dinner, family time, and just being good about taking those things seriously and not taking them for granted.
Yeah, one of the things that we took real seriously early on was story time at night. I think with Chloe, we got a book in probably her first 2 years of life, pretty much on the dot every single time. And I don't really know when it happened, but sometime in the last few months, story time just dropped off. I don't know if we were just so tired or what was going on, but we've got our little pile of books at the base of the bed. So it's not like there's an inhibiting factor on that. And so I would say that's been a thing that we're trying to get back into the routine, is making sure that we get that book in every night. And I think maybe part of it was just I just returned a whole bunch of library books right before we left. And maybe that was why the last book that Chloe is really big into was the library book, and now it's gone. But have you had any routines kind of like come into your life, whether it be like kids or otherwise, that you really like and then kind of fade out? Anything come to mind when I say that?
Yeah, I mean, when I reflect on like the last 10 years of my life, I think it's just a series of that. It's a series of getting into certain routines. The very first thing that just popped in my mind was coming out of COVID and the lockdown. I had gotten into just a super routine of doing a hike every evening up in LA, hiking Runyon Canyon, going to the top, sitting at the top, looking at the whole city, just being thankful for where I was. And it was awesome. It was like so nourishing for the soul. And then, one day it just stopped, and I don't know why. It wasn't a conscious decision, but it just goes away. And then all of a sudden it's like, man, why did I get out of that? But it's just like you asked me the question earlier about creative outlets. It's life makes demands of you. You get pulled in a whole bunch of different directions, and you just do your best. And it's okay that things come and go. Like, life is cyclical. People come and go, routines come and go. And as long as you're doing the best you can do today to be healthy for yourself and your family, it's okay to let some of that stuff go. And maybe it'll come back sometime, but something I've always struggled with is trying not to ruminate on the fact that it's gone and not feel bad that it's gone, but be grateful that I had it.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I think that I'm trying to loop fluidity, right? Because I think regardless of whether or not I've had the self-belief that I'm fluid in life, I think that I believe myself to be more fluid than I actually am. And coming to terms with that and admitting to myself that I actually have a lot more black and white in the way that I see things. And the most natural thing that comes to mind is being here in Taiwan. I was having just a very quick deep conversation with Mel last night about how yesterday was a very unsettling day for me spiritually, because here I am with my family, and for the first time, not that the last time we were here I wasn't part of the family, I was, but there were certain reasons, but was able to say hello to the ancestors on Mel's side of the family, and there was something very like deeply connecting about being offered that connection. And in our intentions coming out here is to open up a window for us to eventually move out here. And being sick and having that just kind of take the rug out from your normal day-to-day basis of how you see things, and moving around and seeing yourself like there's a very different soil that's around you. The plants are different, the heat is different, the sun is different, the clouds, like hit different. It's no longer a place that is in my head. It's a place that could be real in a very short period of time. And I was asking myself, I think for the first time, seriously, could I see myself living here, and could I see myself thriving, right? And so being able to ask those questions of yourself honestly, for me, has been such a difficult task. And I think that in a very real way, yesterday was the first time I answered that I asked myself that question with any kind of deep honesty. And I don't think I have any answers. So stay tuned on that adventure side of my life. Do you have any kind of deep questions that you've asked yourself recently? One thing that comes to mind when I hear you talk, Sam, is wanting to be there for your girl in a way that is meshed with how you want to be as a father. You can take that one, or is there some other part of your life that you feel some sort of deep questioning right now?
The whole transition into fatherhood has really caught me off guard. There were a lot of things that I wasn't prepared for, and they're not the things that I expected to not be prepared for. The things that I thought I wouldn't be ready for came naturally, came easy. Changing a diaper, taking care of a baby, intuitively knowing, how to care for them emotionally and all of that stuff. It's more the things that have challenged me over the last year, especially in the first year, were the transition things, were the letting go and giving up certain chapters in my life, closing those chapters, and kind of being in denial about that for a while. Like, a lot of the things that were really important to me in my life were selfish things. There are things like traveling and being spontaneous, and I just really cherished being able to just go see a movie any night of the week, and these little things that I had never really thought through that they were just going to go away. And I didn't really realize how important they were to me until they were gone. And so there was a lot of questioning about that. There was a lot of acceptance about that, and then learning how to let go was a really big part of it, and to just be present and be in today, and acknowledge and know that these hard times, these tough times that we're in, sleep with lack of sleep, and a little terrorist that we're negotiating with on a daily basis and our daughter are they're also the times that above all else we're going to look back on and just be so nostalgic for, and so grateful that we lived in. So I'm trying my best to really just be in it, and let those other things that are in the past stay in the past.
Yeah, and I appreciate you acknowledging those tensions, right? I think that that's one of the lesser spoken about things in life in general, right? That we're all transitioning at all times, right? Whether we like it or not. I could go into how fast we're moving in the galaxy, or how fast our supercluster is moving towards the next supercluster, or how meaningless anything is compared to the grand scale of it all, right? But to us in this moment now, it's real, right? And to acknowledge it is important. So I appreciate you sharing with that. I appreciate you sharing all of that with us today, Sam, as I am tapping into the last little bit of my energy for the afternoon. On that wonderful note, is there any other bits of wisdom or fantasy knowledge you'd like to drop on us on the way out?
I just want to say that this league is freaking awesome. I love how it has grown over the last 2-3 years to be so much more than fantasy football. We just are so lucky to all have known each other for so long and to be such good friends. I love that you're doing this podcast. I love that the league is engaged, and I'm just super stoked to be a part of it.
Yeah. I hear you, Sam. I appreciate your words. And again, I think that the league is better, not only for my sacrifices, but for your sacrifices and for everyone else who puts time into the content that we all get to enjoy. And on that note, in a universe empty or overflowing with star stuff, I am glad to have shared this moment with you. Now, you are loved from here to fantasy football till death.
Love you, buddy. Peace.
See if I can end this thing. Stop recording.